Emma Carter had always believed that life rarely gave second chances. At 27, she was already tired of disappointments. Her small apartment in the city barely fit a bed, a desk, and a narrow window that looked out over a noisy street. But it was hers, and she had earned every inch of it. Every morning she woke before sunrise, tied her brown hair into a loose ponytail, and walked 3 blocks to the cafe where she worked as a barista. The smell of fresh coffee beans had become the scent of her life. Most customers came and went without much notice, but one man stood out. He appeared every morning at exactly 7:30. Tall, well-dressed, calm. He wore simple dark suits that somehow looked far more expensive than anything Emma had ever seen. Yet he never acted arrogant or impatient like most wealthy customers. He always ordered the same thing: black coffee, no sugar. The first time Emma served him, she noticed his eyes. They were sharp, observant, like someone who understood everything happening in the room without saying a word. "Thank you," he said politely. "Have a good day," Emma replied. That became their routine. Weeks passed, then months. Sometimes he would sit near the window and read documents on his tablet. Other times he simply stared outside, as if thinking about something far away. One rainy morning, Emma accidentally spilled a few drops of coffee near his table. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said quickly, grabbing a towel. But the man chuckled softly. "It's fine, accidents happen." His calm reaction surprised her. Most rich customers complained loudly. He didn't. From that day, they started talking a little. "Busy morning?" he asked once. "Always," Emma laughed. "What would you rather be doing?" Emma thought for a moment. "Honestly, sleeping." The man smiled. That smile was rare, but when it appeared, it made him look almost boyish. His name, she later learned, was Daniel Hayes. What she didn't know was that Daniel Hayes was the CEO of Hayes Global, one of the largest technology companies in the country. To Emma, he was simply the quiet customer who liked black coffee. One afternoon near closing time, Daniel walked in unexpectedly. He never came that late. Emma looked up from wiping the counter. "You're early tomorrow," she joked. Daniel leaned on the counter slightly. "Actually, I came to ask you something." Emma raised an eyebrow. "About coffee?" "Not exactly." There was something unusual in his expression. Curiosity mixed with amusement. "Emma," he said, "can I ask you a strange question?" "Sure." "What would you do if someone suddenly asked you to marry them?" Emma blinked. "That depends," she said slowly. "Do I know the person?" Daniel shrugged. "Let's say you do." Emma laughed. "Well, if it's a joke, I'd laugh. And if it's serious, then I'd probably run away." Daniel studied her face for a moment. Then he laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that made a few customers turn. "Good answer." Emma crossed her arms playfully. "Why, are you planning to propose to random baristas?" Daniel looked directly at her. His eyes sparkled with something mischievous. Then he said casually, "Emma, be my wife." She froze. For half a second, she thought she heard him wrong. Then she burst into laughter. "You're joking." Daniel leaned back calmly. "I thought you might say that." "Of course I would," she said, still laughing. "You can't just walk into a cafe and propose to someone." Daniel nodded. "That's true." Emma wiped tears from her eyes. "That's the weirdest joke I've heard all week." Daniel simply smiled, paid for his coffee, and walked out. Emma shook her head. Strange man. She assumed that was the end of it. She was very wrong. Because the next morning, her entire world was about to change. The following evening, Emma finished her shift later than usual. Her feet ached, and all she wanted was a hot shower and sleep. As she turned the corner toward her apartment building, she noticed something strange. A black luxury car was parked in front of the entrance, and beside it stood a tall, familiar figure. Daniel. But that wasn't the shocking part. Next to him were two large suitcases. Emma stopped walking. What? Daniel spotted her and waved casually. Good evening. Emma slowly approached, confused. Why are you here? Daniel gestured toward the luggage. I moved in. Emma stared at him like he had lost his mind. You what? Daniel picked up one suitcase. Well, technically I haven't moved in yet. I was waiting for you. Emma rubbed her temples. This is not funny. I'm not joking. Daniel, she said firmly, you don't even know where I live. He nodded toward the building. Apartment 3B, small balcony, white curtains. Emma's mouth dropped open. How do you know that? Daniel gave a small shrug. I did some research. That's creepy. He laughed lightly. I prefer efficient. Emma crossed her arms. You proposed yesterday. I laughed. That means no. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Yes, you did laugh. Exactly. So I assumed you needed more time. Emma stared at him in disbelief. You brought luggage because I laughed. Yes. That makes no sense. Daniel leaned against the car. It makes perfect sense to me. Emma looked at the expensive car, the suitcases, the perfectly dressed man standing outside her small apartment building. Something about the situation felt unreal. Daniel, she said slowly, who are you really? He hesitated for a moment. Then he said quietly, I run a company. What company? Hayes Global. Emma frowned. The name sounded familiar. Wait, the tech company. Daniel nodded. Emma's brain tried to process the information. You're telling me you're the CEO? Yes. She stared at him for several seconds. Then she laughed again. You're definitely joking. Daniel sighed. From his pocket, he pulled out his phone and showed her something. A news article. The headline read, Daniel Hayes, CEO of Hayes Global, announces major expansion. And the photo beneath the headline was unmistakably him. Emma felt the ground shift under her feet. You're serious? Yes. And you proposed to me, a barista? Yes. And now you're standing outside my apartment with luggage? Yes. Emma ran a hand through her hair. This is insane. Daniel smiled slightly. I agree. Why me? That question lingered in the air. Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. Because you treat me like a normal person. Emma blinked. What? At the cafe, he explained. You never tried to impress me. You never asked for favors. You never even cared who I was. Emma shrugged. That's because I didn't know. Exactly. Daniel's voice softened. For the first time in years, I felt peaceful sitting somewhere. Emma didn't know what to say. He continued. I know this sounds crazy, but I've spent months watching how you treat people. That sounds even creepier. Daniel laughed. Fair point. He lifted one suitcase. But I meant what I said yesterday. Emma swallowed nervously. Daniel, marriage is not a joke. I know. Then why are you doing this? Daniel looked directly into her eyes. Because sometimes the most important decisions in life happen unexpectedly. The street was quiet. Emma could hear her own heartbeat. She looked at the luggage again. You're really planning to stay? Daniel smiled. If you let me. Emma shook her head slowly. You're unbelievable. Is that a yes? No. He laughed again. Emma turned toward the building entrance. Go home, Mr. CEO. Daniel followed behind her with the suitcase. I'd prefer staying. Stop following me. I'm committed. She turned around suddenly. Why? Daniel answered simply. Because I think you might be the best decision I've ever made. Emma stared at him, and for the first time she didn't laugh. Emma didn't sleep that night. Not because Daniel stayed. Because he didn't. After she firmly refused to let him inside, he calmly placed the suitcases back in the car and left. But before driving away, he said something that stayed in her mind. I'll ask again tomorrow. She assumed he wouldn't. But the next morning at 7:30 sharp, Daniel Hayes walked into the cafe. Black coffee. No sugar. As if nothing unusual had happened. Emma narrowed her eyes. You're persistent. Daniel smiled. I warned you. You seriously meant what you said. Yes. Emma leaned on the counter. Let be clear, you're a billionaire CEO. Technically, yes. And I'm a barista who lives in a tiny apartment. That's true. So why would someone like you want to marry someone like me? Daniel took a slow sip of coffee. Because success can buy many things except sincerity. Emma frowned. And you think I'm sincere? I know you are. The conversation ended there, but Daniel continued showing up every day. Not with pressure. Not with dramatic speeches. Just presence. Sometimes he helped an elderly customer carry groceries. Other times he quietly paid for someone's meal. Emma began noticing things she had never paid attention to before. Daniel wasn't pretending. He was simply himself. One evening after work, Emma walked outside the cafe and found Daniel leaning against his car again. But this time there was no luggage. Good, she said, you learned. Daniel smiled. Small progress. Emma hesitated before speaking. Why did you really bring those suitcases? Daniel chuckled. To prove something. What? That I'm serious. Emma looked at the ground for a moment. Then she said quietly, You scared me. Daniel nodded. I figured. She looked up. Marriage isn't something I can joke about. I know. And my life is complicated. Everyone's is. Emma studied his face. There was no arrogance there. Just patience. What if this doesn't work? She asked. Daniel shrugged. Then we learn. What if I break your heart? Daniel smiled softly. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Emma crossed her arms again, but this time she was smiling slightly. You're very confident. No, Daniel said gently. I'm very certain. Silence lingered between them. Finally, Emma sighed. You know what the craziest part of this whole situation is? What? You never actually asked me properly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. I did. No. You laughed before I could finish. Daniel straightened slightly. Well, maybe I should try again. Emma's heart started beating faster. Daniel stepped closer. His voice became softer, but more sincere than before. Emma Carter, he said, would you consider giving me a chance and maybe someday becoming my wife? Emma looked at him. Really looked. Not as the mysterious cafe customer. Not as the billionaire CEO. Just as the man who drank black coffee every morning and waited patiently outside her world. She took a deep breath. Then she said something unexpected. Okay. Daniel blinked. Okay. Emma smiled nervously. Not marriage yet. Daniel laughed. That's fair, but we start with dinner. Deal. And no luggage. Daniel grinned. No promises. Emma rolled her eyes. You're impossible. Daniel opened the car door for her. Maybe. As Emma sat inside, she realized something strange. Life rarely gave second chances. But sometimes, it delivered a billionaire CEO with luggage and an impossible proposal. And somehow, that crazy moment might just become the beginning of the best story of her life.